Hi, my name is Dr. Rick Varier, and I want to welcome you to a program called Theology and Tradition in Roman Catholicism. And tonight we're going to be talking about Lucifer. You remember him, Lucifer? Oh, actually, when we begin, I want to ask you a question. You know, come here, come close. I want to ask you this. And what I want to ask you is do you think about Lucifer very much? You know, Satan. Do you think about him very much? You know, I bet you if you're like most of us, you really don't think about him too much, especially in our culture. And that's really too bad. And the reason it's too bad is that he thinks about you every waking second and every sleeping moment. He absolutely never stops thinking about you. And you know why he thinks about you like this all the time? He thinks about you because actually he wants to devour you. You know, when I use that analogy sometimes, my kids say, "Oh, Dad, that's like icky." And I say, you know, it really is. It's kind of graphic, and I understand. But you know what? First of all, it's biblical. But secondly, it's really accurate. Because he wants to devour us. He wants to devour my spouse. He wants to devour my children. And there's a line from a movie. I'm sure most of you remember this. This was from The Terminator. And Lucifer's a lot like him. He absolutely, positively will not stop. As a matter of fact, you're not free until you rest in the bosom of God. And every moment between now and then, he thinks about you all the time. You know, sometimes when I think about how to actually think about this a little bit, I think about stalking. Now, I don't know how many of you have ever been stalked before. Maybe those of us in the military, you know, we might have been stalked. But actually, we've always been stalked by humans. And how about if you're stalked by something that's non-human? And actually, I had the opportunity once with one of my friends to go up to the Arctic Circle, and we stayed in a little Inuit village, an Eskimo village, and it was surrounded all the time by polar bears. Now, polar bears are a really interesting bear because grizzly bears will kill you, but actually they won't eat you. And they actually won't really hunt you down either. If you happen to be on their land, they're very territorial, they'll kill you. But polar bears are really different. And isn't it, they look kind of cuddly, they look a little cute, and they can't wait to kill you and devour you. Everything that happens to you in that little village is about not being eaten by the polar bears. And I actually think that's a fairly good analogy for us and Lucifer. Except, once again, the problem is we don't think about it that much. Well, what's happened? What has happened that here is this beast, this dragon, that wants to devour us, and we actually don't think about him very much? Well, there's something happened that's very peculiar to our century. And that is through two things, actually. The first is that there's a group of people, common actually in their thought, that do not believe Lucifer exists. And then there's another group that also believes that, you know, maybe he exists and maybe he has a place called hell, but actually nobody goes there. Those are actually and really the two prevailing thoughts today. Now, there's a film that I want to remind you of in this regard. It's called The Usual Suspects. It's a great Kevin Spacey film. And in it, he has the major character, Kaiser Sosek, and he says that one of the greatest tricks that the devil has ever played on us in our century is to convince us that he does not exist. Imagine a stalker, a beast, a dragon that would really try to convince us that he doesn't exist. Why? So he can sneak up on us and devour us. Wow. And that happens. And we believe, we do not believe. We've transposed this notion of this external kind of beast, and now we change it to something kind of almost internal. And what happens there, and actually this is part of psychological science, we see this all around, is that we've taken the notion of this devil and we've turned it into psychological concepts. That evil really is about neurosis and psychosis. That if actually we had this opportunity, we could fix people. That the evil really isn't about anything like a devil. Oh no, we're too sophisticated for that. But there are lots and lots of people who believe things in that fashion, who absolutely think that there's no such thing as evil. And you know, in many ways, it is unfortunate that our modern language has changed a lot. We don't even like this Lucifer stuff, the names and stuff like that. We want to rid ourselves of that. You know, I'm sure you're all aware that the only translations that we have of the original gospel texts are Greek. We don't have anything in Aramaic. We don't have anything in Hebrew. They're all Greek translations. And when we say the Our Father today, how do you say the Our Father? How does it end? Deliver us from evil, right? We all say it that way. Go to the Greek text, and actually you can go to some earlier translations, the Douay-Rheims translation, and also the Jerusalem Bible. When Christ says the Our Father, he doesn't end in a generic evil. He actually ends it in deliver us from the evil one. And actually, that's the way the Greek translation is. The Greek is a personal pronoun. It is not evil generic, it is personal. Do you know why? Because it is personal. It is absolutely personal. One of the things that is also important, and that was the second notion, that if there is a devil, that actually he's not very active, and if there's a hell, probably nobody goes there. And that also is pretty prominent today, isn't it? We hear that lots of times in those people who actually speak about him. And I think that when we think about it in this fashion, it's really important to remember two things. One is when the Blessed Virgin Mary appeared at Fatima, she gave the children a vision of hell. And of course, they were just like taken aback. They were bowled over. Mary had to intervene in their minds to help them to see this. And what she told the children is that souls fall into hell like snowflakes fall from the sky. I don't know about you. It's a little chilling to me. I hear something like that and I'm thinking, jeepers, how terrible is that? Like snowflakes fall. You ever tried to count snowflakes? Remember when you were a little kid, you'd run around? I don't know how long it lasted for you. I have a attention span about that long. Didn't last that long for me. Why? Because there's too many of them. They're all over the place. And that's what Mary says. Now, Augustine and Aquinas both speculate on who is saved. And actually, it's curious because they both come up with sort of the same type of number. And they both suggest that approximately, they believe 50% of the people don't go to heaven or purgatory. That 50% of the people go to hell. Now, look, are these true? I don't know. Did Augustine and Aquinas know? They didn't really know either. But you know what? We certainly hope that everyone is saved. And I do. I hope everybody gets saved. But we have to also understand, very profound thinkers thought that 50% of us were not saved. All right, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back and speak more about Lucifer.